Okay. Home base, right?
Right.
Umadi yes laben bepratit chalus des sirus atzilus, umetchilu yes lavar inyan pratit chalkus sirus layud v'yud layud. Mo cheshish b'chochma shenechlak amu layud, ukai gavna, glur sheb'chochma nechlak layud. Chulu. Hina chochma klula miyud, Aynuk mo chesed glur sheb'chochma, lahata is klape schus, klape chayiv v'chesed b'chochma. So the in chochma, even though in general Chokhmah tends to go towards Chesed, but really within that whole thing there's really two lines.
Right.
It's really, there's the Indian of Glor Sheb'Chokhmah also, which the Indian of Glor Sheb'Chokhmah is basically to be medactic in how the thing should be. That according to Chokhmah, there's certain dikdukim, that it makes sense to make certain dikdukim. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
Yeah, okay. So, Chok sheb'Chokhmah l'hatzif klape schus, klape chayiv, v'ches sheb'Chokhmah l'hatzif klape chus, v'ches sheb'Chokhmah l'hatzif klape schus, gam hu kol miyut. That's also, so the spheres of Chokhmah also have spheres. The Ainuk mo chesed gvur sheboy lezakos b'efen kaf v'kaf, v'lochov yachav v'gam hu b'efen kaf v'kaf. So what does that mean? It means like this: Hagam sh'aschus yahachav lehapech lechoch lechoy bedin sheb'Chokhmah v'achov yahavech leschut b'chesed sheb'Chokhmah. In other words, the din in chesed sheb'Chokhmah is not really a din; it's really a chesed. It just that it means that we're going to have a chesed, but not such a big chesed. That's what it means din sheb'chesed.
Right.
That it puts a limitation on the chesed, but really it's still a chesed. And really, in general, it's a klal gadol that in any sphera, all its spheros are really that sphera. Wait, hold on for a minute. Yeah, like for instance, midos of the seichel are not really midos.
Right.
They're seichels.
Right.
In other words, the chesed of Chokhmah is not a chesed at all. It's a seichel.
Right.
So like for instance, seichel shebabina means that you analyze the situation, and according to this analysis, you say, well, according to this analysis, it seems to me like in this particular instance, we should have chesed.
Right.
Now, that's not an actual chesed. It's not an actual feeling of love. It's not a midah. It's a seichel.
Right.
And the same thing with the seichel of the midos. The seichel of the midos is just the inner part of the midos that it knows what this thing is, but the real thing is that it's feeling.
Right.
So the same thing with din of chesed over here, in general, it's not really din, it's chesed. So in Chokhmah and chesed sheb'Chokhmah, to say that there's din of chesed sheb'Chokhmah, really it's the din of chesed sheb'Chokhmah is also a chesed.
Right.
And it just
Actually,
means that
it's also a Chokhmah.
Well, yeah, right. But really, the whole thing is really not at all a chesed either. It's really a Chokhmah.
Right.
But the din of the chesed, it's not that it's actually a din. It means that it stops the chesed from being so big.
Right.
וגם שהזכות יהפך לחוי בדין שבחוכמה, החוי יהפך לזכות בחסד שבחוכמה, זהו כאשר הוא בעצם בלתי התחלקות. That's how it is in the without התחלקות. אבל בהתחלקות, when there's a real התחלקות, יוכל להיות גם בכל בחסד שבחוכמה מבחינת דין, ובדין שבחוכמה מבחינת חסד כידוע. That's really, at that point, there could be also from the seichel can actually come real midos. And from the right can come a real left, etc. And this will be explained. וכן במידס בחסד גבור עצמן, החסד נחלק ליוד, כחב ומידס כולו, וגם שאין הרחמים בדין, היינו בדין העצמי. This thing that there's a halacha that you're not allowed to have rachamim in a court case.
Right.
When you're figuring out the din, you can't say, oh, this poor guy, you know. You can't do that. But that's bedin ha'atzmi. But can end din b'chesed ha'atzmi. Same thing, the chesed ha'atzmi is no din. Avo b'pashtusan min ha'etzem, when they spread out from the etzem, yesh chesed b'din v'din b'chesed. Then you can have a din in the chesed and a chesed in the din. And now he's going to explain the different inyanim of the Hitbonenut. So, yesh Hitbonenut shenikra bitul dova b'hipuchoi hamenagdoi. Vaya kamoy mamish. There's a thing that the two opposites nullify each other.
Right.
וכמו מיתוק הגבורס בחסודים, כמו שהמקטרג יהפך לסנגר. וכמו ההפך שהסנגר יהפך למקטרג.
Right.
וכמיתוק מים המרים במתוקים. That they overpower it. או להפך. וכן ביטול שכל זכוס בשכל לחייב כאגבנה. So there's a seichel zchus that you see this poor little Palestinian kid without shoes.
Right.
But the seichel l'chayv can overpower it totally. When the seichel l'chayv tells you that this is a future terrorist.
Right. It's even too much that he has feet.
Right. That's the thing. Right. That's the... Already, Kalus Amiti. That's actually Kalus. V'ainu, in other words, the seichel, a seichel of din can overpower a seichel of fus. V'ainu rak lefi sheyesh koach zeh b'menaged atzmai. In other words, how is that possible, especially in an ish chesed, that a seichel of din can overpower a seichel of chesed? Because really there's an inyan of chesed in that seichel of din.
Right.
It's not just pure hatred, it's because this guy is going to kill Jews. And it's really a chesed for Jews.
Right.
ואם לא היה batel b'im, כמו במתיקוס יש מרירוס בהלם, ומרירוס יש מתיקוס בהלם. In a bitter, like what we learned in chapter 6, in a bitter feeling, there's a sweet feeling, and a sweet feeling, there's a bitter feeling.
Right.
So that how much the people are happy when their uncle or brother or whatever comes to visit them, when they meet when you meet at the airport. There's two kinds of meetings: when they're coming and when they're going. When they're coming, everybody's happy, and when they're going, everybody's sad.
Right.
It's sweet and bitter. So how sad are they going to be when they're going? You'll see the ones that were really happy when they were coming, they'll be the real sad when they're leaving.
Right.
Why? Because in the sweetness is bitterness, and the bitterness is sweetness.
Right.
And that's the whole thing, that in general, when you go through the book, you'll notice that over and over again he brings up this theme of opposites. That he first of all says the opposites, so how can you have opposites together? And then he says, but that's the whole thing.
Right.
That the whole thing that it's the opposite is what makes it, so in other words, sweet and bitter do have to do something with each other.
Right.
But sweet and right, or sweet and red.
Right.
Red is not the opposite from sweet.
Right.
It's not the same as sweet. It has nothing to do with sweet. And Zavka, the opposite, means it's the opposite of this thing.
Right.
Means it has this thing in it in an opposite way. That means it has this thing in it in a hidden way.
Right.
So, like for instance, if you have a sour lemonade, if you add sugar, it'll nullify, and then you'll come out with a medium taste that's made up from sour and sweet together, like he's going to bring up soon. But if you have a lemonade with just lemon in it, without sugar, and you add red food coloring, it's not going to help.
Right.
It'll make it red, but it's not going to help with the sourness. So I know, ואם לא היה באטל בו, כמו במתיקות יש מירוץ בהלם, מירוץ יש מתיקות בהלם, משהו ודמיין מבישול המרקחס מדבש וצנוין, a goodie that they used to make from honey and
Radish.
Right? Shanas etam arevus, it's like sweet and sour, you know. This is the whole Chinese food is built on this.
Yeah, the yin and the yang.
Yeah, to make a special taste, it's made out of opposite tastes.
Right.
And that gives it a tam arevus. It's a special good taste that just sweet or just sour wouldn't give you.
Right.
And also here he's talking about sharp and sweet. Harif, koilo harifus umesikus, mecharifus umesikus yachat k'yadua. וכן יש מטבע אש במים ומים באש. על כן יתקלל אש במים או מים באש. כמו שנאמר, הוציא מים מאש ואש במים. וכך במידות חסד וגבורה. That's basically what he's talking about upstairs. מפני שיש דין בחסד וחסד בדין. זה עניין הדין עם חסד וחסד בדין. Now, אם כן יבוטל הדין בחסד להיפך חסד בדין. ואם לא היה מתקל על דבר בחופוך העולם. Like lemon and red. The sweet will stay sweet and the red will stay red.
Right.
There's no ischalus in them. Amnam, so that's one kind of ischalus. That they not exactly nullify, they actually enhance each other.
Right.
By taking the edge off, you're able to come up with a ravus that's more than each one of them. Like if you would eat just something that's super sharp or just sour, like a piece of lemon, you couldn't even eat it. It wouldn't taste good. Or just plain sugar. But
right.
Together, it's not just that they nullify it so there's no taste at all. They, besides nullifying, they nullify and enhance each other, actually.
Right.
That's one kind of ischalus. Then, Annam, hini yesh ischalus medin b'chesed v'nei shehu kamoyu be'etzem. V'lo shu botel nahusu. Not that it'll actually nullify that draba, just opposite. Noitzim b'teike v'oiz. V'him kol zen nikra gvura sheb'chesed. וכן להיפך יש חסד, להיפך חסד שבגבורה, שנויתן כוח בגבורה בדין חול. והעניין הוא, what's this next word here?
Kayadua.
Oh, kayadua. Okay. כידוע, על דרך, אם רואה פסונך אכילהו לחם, כי ככל הם חולו. And you gave me, I never exactly knew how to apply that much until you told me about the Persians.
Right.
You know, how do you hurt the guy by helping him?
Right.
I never exactly understood what it's talking about, but the other thing, the basic, the poshuder thing in this is that if there's a guy that is your enemy, and he got poor, so you go and you give him a buck, you know?
Right.
Say, here, buddy, buy yourself something to eat, putz.
Right.
You know, So the fact that he's getting it from his enemy hurts him even more. Than not only that he actually has to take it because he's hungry.
Right.
He'll actually have to take it, but while he's eating a piece of bread, he'll feel like he's eating cold.
Right.
What the Eibusher pays his enemies in this world, because it says the Eibusher never takes away the schar of anybody. So it's a din. A din means justice.
Right.
The Eibusher is totally just, and if somebody does any small little thing, he'll still pay him for it. But what does he do? He'll pay them dafka in this world. And that's the thing why it says, why sometimes you see evil people that are having a good time in this world, and vice versa, that the Eibusher is paying them off because everybody must have done something good here and there.
Right. That's why the verse says, "U'mishalem l'sonav al panav la'avido." He pays his enemy up front.
Up front, right.
In order to destroy him. Up front in this world.
Mm-hmm. So, he pays him in this world where it doesn't count, so that later when it does count, there'll be nothing left to pay him.
Right.
Then he can fix some good. What is this? Hare Kagabna kol pchina din v'inish nasa pchinas chesed. Hare hu oiz v'toikev adin b'yetzer. V'nikra chesed shebegvura. Ukmo v'shmiya HaShem et pait kolu machnis on chevriv. I think also later on he says, I'm not sure the pasuk, it says that he sent the Malach Havaya.
Mm-hmm.
And what did the Malach Havaya do for them? He gave them something that people hope for. He let them hear what's going on upstairs.
Right.
He gave them a shtickle nevuah.
Right.
But what it did to them is, because they weren't ready for it, so it totally blew their mind, they started killing each other. It made them crazy. Mekan behepoch, b'pchinas gvura shebechesed, שהמעשה של חסד עשוי במידות הדין. להיות בייסד תויקה ואויז. Then it's even stronger. כמו גבורת גשמים שבהם בצמצום, that the thing of gshomim, they have to come dafka in droplets, שיומשך בריבוי, in order that you should have a lot of rain. וכמו tzimtzum, otherwise it'll destroy things if it comes down in a torrent, you know?
Right.
כמו tzimtzum oyer HaShem b'kol mokam k'dei kabel, the whole thing of, like we learned earlier, that the mashpia has to matzamtzum dor HaSheva in order that the makabel will be able to get it. So ken itchalkus ein beit keshorim. It explains in certain places in Chochmah there is 72 synapses.
Mm-hmm.
There's 72 connections between the 72 names or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently in the Seichel there's 72 connections that can be made. That's how the Chochmah, but it doesn't go completely, it has to go over a bridge. In other words, the connection is not made like that it's totally all one thing, but rather that it's separate things with little narrow bridges between them.
Right, right.
And this makes it bigger, better. But Ken Yisurim Shalava, which is the opposite of paying them in this life for the bad, it's paying in this life for the good people, paying them in this life for whatever little bad they did. And actually, Yisurim Shalava is even more than that. Yisurim Shalava is when the athlete is absolutely he didn't do any bad.
Right.
In other words, not that he did bad so the Eibusher is paying him bad in this world so that later he'll be only left good, but he didn't do any bad. And yet the Eibusher sends him Yisurim in order to increase even the good that he's going to give him later.
Right.
V'ken av in Ben Yirtzeh, if the father loves his son, Miyasro, then he will
discipline him.
The chesed is done in the enclosement of din. In other words, the fact that the father disciplines the son, this proves his love more than a father is always nice to his son. That he already, before he even hit him, he already had the refuah ready. But, and this is a very big question, why did he make this weird rule? The whole rule is made in this weird way. That, like, for instance, we say to the Eibishter, you took us out from Egypt. He said, what do you mean? He put us into Egypt.
Right.
I mean, he took us out of Egypt. So you're going to say, like, okay, so I'll go around, I'll push you into a ditch, and then I'll pull you out. And say, right. You owe me one now. You owe me now, owe you one. I'm calling the cops on you. You pushed me into the ditch. Right?
Exactly.
Somebody pushes you into a ditch and then helps you out. You say, well, you owe me one. Ain't I a nice guy? You see, I helped you out of the ditch.
Right.
So, isn't this exactly what the Abish is doing?
Yeah.
Like what we're reading now. The Yosef went down to Egypt.
Right.
So later on, the Abish says, oh, look, here, make a Pesach and eat matzahs and say the Haggadah. And we thank the Abish so much, you took us out of Egypt. We said, wait a minute. He put us into Egypt. How come not? Yeah, in the whole Haggadah, where does it say? I mean, he says this and that and something else. He said, wait a minute. He's the one who put us into Egypt, and we had to suffer there for 400 years.
Right.
Terrible suffering. So what do you mean he took us out of Egypt? We were already out of Egypt.
It was 210 years, no?
Yeah, 400 years going back to the what do you call it?
Brit B'nat Tarim.
Right. And then really that goes, the question really goes on the world. That we're in the world and this and everything, and then we'll learn Torah and we'll go up to spiritual levels. We'll go to heaven and say, wait a minute, we were higher than heaven. What are you talking about? You pushed us, mi igra ram lebirta amikta.
Right.
You pushed us, we were living in a high palace, and you pushed us into this low pit. So yeah. So what? Now you're going to come and tell him, now I'm going to send Mashiach, and he will pull you out of the pit. You put us into the pit in the first place. So that's the question. That's the basic question here. What do you mean? Who Yachli Yipayel? If he hit you, what do you mean? If somebody will hit you and make a bruise and then say, oh, I'm going to help you here. Let me bandage it up for you, and I'm going to have this special thing. I put it on. See, I fixed you up. You say, I'm going to punch you in the nose. Right? What do you mean? Who Yachli Yipayel? Why did he hit him? Where are we?
And the Haggadah mentions that he put us into Egypt.
Yeah, but it doesn't mention it as a bad way. It says, hey, what are you...
אמר לאברהם אבינו בברית בין הבתרים, שנאמר ואמר לאברהם, ידוע תדע, כי גר יהיה זרעך בארץ לא להם. And then it says later on that Yaakov went down al pi Dibur.
Yeah, but right? That's a praises.
Right.
It shouldn't be a praise.
One would think that it wouldn't be a praise.
Well, right. Who Yahweh praise? If somebody will come up to you, if somebody will come up to you and punch you, and then he'll fix it up. So are you going to be happy? Oh, this guy was so nice to me. He bandaged up my boo-boo.
Right.
It's just the opposite. You say the guy hit me, and I'm going to call the cops.
You put me in the hospital in the first place.
Yeah. Right. Why should he even hit you?
Right.
Ach, al yedei refuah yiboru v'itchazik yeser. That's the whole thing of Yerido L'Tzorech Aliyah. That the whole thing, why the world was created, is not just that we should end up where we started.
Right, that's the idea of a vaccine.
Yeah, it's also the idea of exercise. The whole idea of exercise actually destroys your muscles.
Right, I mean, it makes you sore.
It makes you sore. So you exercise and you're sore, so it made it worse.
Right.
I wasn't feeling all that great. I was fat and flabby, but now you made me exercise. Now I'm sore all over. I can hardly move.
Right.
But the thing is that he's going to come out higher than the original.
Right.
He's going to fix them up better than before. In other words, when they came out of Egypt, they went from a level of Benayach to a level of Yisrael.
Right.
You know, and the whole thing of the whole Golus, that we're not going to come out of Golus. We went into the Golus on the level of Adam, which is Chaya, and we're going to come out of the Golus on the level of Mashiach, which is Yechida.
Right.
Meaning the whole entire Golus of the world, from the beginning of the world till now.
Right.
In other words, the whole Golus really started with the Eitz Hadas. He said, well, wait a minute, the Eibusher was sort of the one that he is the thing of Nor Alilas on the Adam. He got him into it. He knew it would happen. He set him up for it.
Right.
So what if he's going to help? He shouldn't have set us up in the first place. Why did you make it happen in the first place? The reason why is because it's going to be better.
Right.
The medicine is also a bitter, hard thing. And as a matter of fact, the medicine is a thing that a healthy person should not take.
Right.
Okay, God, the call Mittler Rebbe when it's actually the din, hainu bedin shebechesed davka. Liyesed teikva shel chesed ligbor al adin lamtika chulu. V'dala mevit. So this is the teikv of the chesed and the teikv of the din. The chesed, the din shebechesed and the chesed shebedin. The calls yuva and echos oifne pratit kal the chesed gvura. Mo gang gvura shebechesed and chesed shebegvura. Gam shehen beis hafachim beyeser. So that's even more. So he said, wait a minute. So she's saying now because it's chesed gvura shebechesed and chesed shebegvura, that's even bigger hafachim than the chesed and gvura themselves.
Right.
So that teik of a chesed. This isn't just chesed. It's a teik of a chesed. This is teik of a gvura. That teik of a gvura. Mikol sheken mitzadait pashtus, but nonetheless. Because it's Pashtus Lavusha Mechulofim, Shezeh Poel Dim, Shezeh Poel Chesed. Especially, not in spite of it, Mikol Shekan, even more so because of the spreading out of the opposite Lavushim, that this one actually does a Din and this one actually does a Chesed. Aval Mikol Mokam, but nonetheless, Mitzad Shekol Echad Poel Bishvil Dover Hipucho Dafka. Since even though the chesed, the shebedin, is a poil, it's poil a chesed though, and inside of it is din.
Right.
So gvura shebechesed pu'ulos din upnemius chesed, like when he patches the boy, when he patches the son.
Right.
The pu'ula, it's a patch, it's a din, but pnemius he's trying to grow him up good.
Right.
It's a chesed. The chesed shebegvura, like when with the Persians, who lost a chesed, he gave him a raise.
Right.
But really he's messing him up.
Right.
Nonetheless, each one of them has two opposites in it. It seems backwards. Gabriel is an angel of din.
Right.
So it was Gabriel, but it was Gvura Shebechesed. You say, wait a minute, Gvura Shebechesed is Chesed, isn't it?
Right.
So how come Gabriel is Gvura Shebechesed? He's the angel of Gvura.
Right.
Yeah, he's an angel. An angel is a lavush,
Right.
a keli. He's not a light. So Gvura Shebechesed means that the light, the sphera is chesed. So there's a Shem Havaya of yeah, I can't remember where I read this. I don't think it was in Tanya. Tanya.
So that's what it means, Malach HaShem, that Hashem is in him.
Yeah.
The Malach is the Keli and the Hashem is in him. He's lavush for it.
Right, but it also explains that there's Havayas. There's also Havayas from the left side. So, or the Malach Elokim or whatever, there's different names go into the angel. In other words, a light, as a sphera goes into the angel. And it says when the angel is full of the light, I think this is in Tanya. I don't know if it's in Tanya, I read it somewhere else. I just read it recently. That when the angel is doing a shlichus, the name is in him to the point that the angel is actually called God.
Right.
Like I saw God. It says I saw God.
Right.
And when he's not on a shlichus and the name is not in him, so the angel says Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Kadosh means Muvdal.
Right. Isn't that a Rashi?
Not just Muvdal, but Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh.
It's a Rashi.
Yeah?
A couple parshas ago, the Sar of Esav, that it says that he ruled over Elikim or whatever, so Rashi says that because the Malachim, when they're on Shlichus, they're called by the Shem Elikim. Or something like that. I think it's a Rashi.
The Rashi also, but I read a whole explanation of Chassidus about this.
Right, okay.
I think it's in Tanya. I'm pretty sure it's in Tanya. And I think it's in Shaar HaYichud by Munah. I'm not sure. So, the angel is the angel because the Pa'ula is Gvura. So he sent the angel of Gvura.
Right.
It's Gvura Shebechesed. But the Pnimius was Chesed. The shame inside of him was Chesed because it's an angel. וכן צינת הגחולים, הרי זה מבחינת גבור שבחסד, מוי זה הטויבה, מוי ציתחוי ליחוים. That if somebody has a fever, so if you want to cool him down from his fever, actually what you have to do is you have to heat him up.
Right.
You cover him up with blankets. You don't put him out and you say, okay, so let's put him outside, he'll cool down a little bit.
You make him sweat.
You make him sweat, you make him real hot. The refuah lamaka, that the refuah is a bitter thing, it hurts. So hu hamakiv b'makeh sancheriv v'b'chinat chesed v'gvura mo shenemar v'yetzim malach havaya. Yeah, here it is. That it was a malach havaya that came out. What did he do? He gave them a big chesed. He let them see upstairs. And he let them hear upstairs. V'kiyadu v'dalam even. V'hainu lechlala smola b'yamina v'yamina smola. V'hukmo ora chesed b'kli agvura. Shepoil akli hefech ha'or shalei. Shekli agvura poil din. Hefech or shal chesed, like a patch.
Right.
To bite. V'ken lahepech kli ha'chesed, like the person that's giving the raise. Poil chesed. Hefech or agvura shabod. Or the actual intention is opposite. And it's not really opposite because that's the oil and keli shuin and chaymer v'tzura. Moshe Barn. This will be explained later. Whereas the actual light, you can't really have it as kavlos. The intention of chesed is opposite from the intention of din. You can't miskabel them. Moshe Rabbeinu Mokum Macher B'Inid Kalov the Shem and Beis, the Shem I and Beis, Shem Beis Parshios. Did you ever count those properly? Who counted? Was Shimon counted?
Shimon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever count them finally?
The years?
The amount of words in the two.
Oh yeah. The way it is like it's not really 72 in the second one. It's really more than that, but it's up to a certain part of it is 72, and it comes out to the whole thing. And then if you count the Vayale Kechem MS twice, then it comes out to the whole, it comes out right like you said.
Yep, these two pieces of kugel.
Yeah, it works.
Two base parshes kriyas ma'akma kedet yitzchak davka be'Avraham mitachesed. The Ketnukvas Alavim, the Levim is the Indian of Gvura, Nechulu b'chasadim the Kohanim, that they were given to serve the Kohanim. Mashnem v'yilovu elecha v'ech yishare es hipuchoi, u'kaigab narabim, there's many instances like this. The calls the end of rag mitzat china is chalko shebekol echad, al ken matzah min et minay. B'nior, and it wakes it up. Gam b'yezam beis hapochim mamish, even though they're total hapochim. K'mo inyan hitchalkos michol v'gabriel shal shal esr mayim, v'en mekabim zeh et zeh. Ma shenemar oisi sholem chulu. But this is dafka by the angels, which are kelim. L'fi sheyesh b'kol echad mi'hipucho yamenag the dafka. And this is dafka by the Kalim. That's why Tikkun, the thing of Tikkun is less light, Oiris Merubim.
You mean Kalim Merubim?
Kalim Merubim, right. Kalim Merubim. And Oiris Muatim, that's Tikkun.
Right.
Not too much light, but a lot of Kalim. Whereas the whole thing of Tohu is because it's big light. So the guy can't give up his
position.
The guy can't give us it's already talking about the essence of the principle of the thing.
Right.
So he can't give up his position to the opposite position. From the Keli, you can have a Keli of Gvura to take in its light of Chesed. So from the Keli, they can be a scholar.
Aval ba'oras apshutim.
Aval ba'oras apshutim b'tachlis, more pchinas and nekudos, and the kroim ksorim, like we explained before, the akud nekudim brudim, he efshar amal iskal klal, they can't join. Because mibnei shekol echad nivdal legamre mizulosei. ולא ימצא בו כלל מבחינת המנרדי, כמו עצם מבחינת הטוב שבעצמיס נפש איש הטוב, הנקרא עמק טוב, עם עצם הרע שנקרא עמק רע. Like the עצם הטוב, like like a Rebbe or something like that, with lahavdil adnasi machshemai. And also with the עצem of the principle, even in the seichel. And the עצem of the seichel, bet Hilim bet Shammai can't join.
Right.
It's only in the Pashtus, in the Kalim they can join, but not in the Etzem of the Seichel they can't join.
Right.
It's still the opinion of Bet Shammai is still the same like it was then. It didn't change. The actual opinion in the Etzem HaSeichel did not change.
Right.
The Baal Tshuva is on the Royim Shenep Bagam Etzem HaRalatay, but in the Baal Tshuva it could change. That in general, that the Ksorim, meaning the Etzem HaRotzen, like what it was explained earlier in Toihu. So against Doinus Atzma Nasin Kischuyos, and not only Kischuyos, it can be even actually become Schuyos.
Right.
Arei Hu, that is Mitzad Mesiris Nefesh B'Atzmos Ein Seif. That's already higher than, that's not from the Ksarim. That's from higher than the Ksarim. That's from the actual Hiyuli. That's before the even the Ksarim. From up there, you can even mitkal the Oiris. That's the Machazin Gvur. Lachen, Yechoylem. Mesiris Nefesh Nafkali, Paul, Leimar, Yerotzim, Etzem, Milfad Necha Kulu. Lachen, B'Yavor Abai Alponov, the Ebersher went past the Pnimius. He went past even the Pnimius of the Ritzainus. Tel Rachum, Lapoch Gamadin, Be'etzem Lachesed Kulu. Moishid Bar, B'Inyan, Yizgimel, Tikun, Nedigna, Kulu, V'Dal, Mavin. I'm not exactly sure where he explains it because I don't see anywhere in the book that he explains about the Yud Gimel Tikkun Dikna. The Daila Mevin. I know that is that this is higher than the Hishtalshelut from the Kabbachut itself. And over there it's all a matter of Hiyulis, and really it's even higher from them where it says Ella Moshe Amruzal Ella V'lo L'Midaisa, means even higher Gamlo L'Midaisa V'Atzmi Chol Moshe Bar Bez Hashem Daila Mevin, like it says for him and not his midos, meaning from higher than even the midos Atzmi. And that's it.
Now, he talks about Yud Gimel Midas Arachamim.
Yeah, but it doesn't really explain them.
Right.
And only, even the ones he explains, only tells you about the nights of Anaki. What's with other 11?
But he explains the source of the whole thing. And the whole,
he explains the Indian.
He explains the Indian of the Yud Gimel Midas Arachamim.
Yeah.
And how it works that they're Yud Gimel Midas Arachmim is dafka because they're higher. They explains later on, like by Chaf Hey or Chaf Vav, is because they're higher than the Chochma of Aris, which that's it's higher than the mitzvahs of the Hischalkus of the dinim of the mitzvahs.
Yeah, that he explains. Yeah, but he doesn't explain the actual Indian, the whole thing of what the other 11 are and
right. That he doesn't
what
explain.
Comes out of them. Why it's 13.
Right. Like, he does explain it, but you have to figure it out.